Okay, we have exposed our first polymer plate. We open the exposure unit and we take out the future plate, and we can already feel with our fingers, we can feel the relief here. And now we have basically two options how to cut the polymer. We can do it with scissors, or we can do it with a Stanley knife, just on the soft side. You can feel it, the soft side, it's the reverse side, and cut inside and just take off that cover layer, so to say. Both ways are possible. I will show it now to you with the first way, with the scissors. And important, don't cut inside the text area, of course, because then you would destroy your nicely made text plate. And now you see why it's important to leave, like I mentioned before in the beginning, to leave about ½ centimeter for cutting, because if you would not exposed polymer would spill over my fingers. And this, of course, we want to avoid. We want to have clean fingers. Yeah. So now with your fingers or nails, take off the cover layer, but yeah, we want to have clean fingers, so I show you a trick. First, put it on the wash out lid, press it with your fingers onto the lid, and now, only now, take off the foil. And this way, really, your fingers stay clean. Yep. And we take off that, and that's it. Yep. Our text plate going to be washed out. And we press develop. Yep. It's washing out. And that's the good thing on the polymer process, why it has more capacity compared to other technologies. You can work parallel. So while we are washing out here on top already text plate 1, I show you another version of image pack. The green one is without baking sheet. Why without baking sheet? It's a little bit cheaper. It's for those stamp makers saying, well, cutting out process of the polymer text plates, it's a hard thing with the baking sheet. My fingers hurt at the end of the day. Yeah, and take the green one, save money, cut it out without the baking sheet, so it's much easier. Maybe you also will make fewer mistakes, because it's not such a hard job. But then there are other stamp makers that say, no, I want to have the baking sheet, that's for me a must. Without baking sheet, it's not a text plate. Okay, for those, we have image pack extra with the baking sheet. And now we produce a text plate with image pack extra, so that you see in the end of the production process where is the difference. It's an A4. You can easily distinguish it from the one without baking sheet because it has no color. The other one is green, and that one with the baking sheet has no color. We put it on the positive, and yeah, it is the same. See to it you have some space around your negative. Image pack readable, of course, that's important. Close the lid of the exposure unit, wait for the polymer to flatten in the sachet, and close it. And while we are washing out on top, we are already starting to expose the second plate. So that's a nice thing. You can work parallel, you get more capacity, and that's why we also said yeah, an A5 machine is enough for most of the stamp makers. Yeah, typical. You hear the exposure for the relief is already stopping, and now just for the floor is stopping, and just the relief is continuing to expose. Maybe a few words. Okay, washing out has already stopped. So we take out the text plate. Okay, we see we have here today in Austria a rather warm day before it's going to rain tomorrow. We could have what we can see here already. The 20 seconds for the main should be reduced. That we can see. Why do we see that? Because we don't have that much relief. So in the manual here you will find 15 to 20 seconds, and that's always according to the local circumstances. Has to be adjusted. So instead of 20 like we have set, probably we should have taken 17. Yeah. No problem. We have the green image pack without backing sheet. So without backing sheet, that means I have to remove the second foil. We remove it, and it's now sticky. It's really sticky, as you can see. Yeah, it's sticky. Everybody can see it. We open the post-exposure drawer. It's filled with water and with salt. Quantity of the water is easy to say. The text plate should be covered with water, and while we start post-exposing, I'm using still the light here from the exposure from the second text plate, and once that is over I will start post-exposure, because I don't want to interfere with text plate number 2 because of post-exposure. Yep, okay. So text plate number 2 can be taken out. Yeah. And now I start post-exposing 400 seconds. I will explain a few seconds later regarding post-exposure process. And now I show you the second way how to cut out an exposed text plate with a Stanley knife. I put it on a table and I cut just inside the soft side, not the hard one, not from the bottom, from the top, and I cut inside the text plate at the border, so into the exposed polymer, so my fingers stay clean. And yeah, and now we stick it on the washout lid. Yep. And now I take off the foil. Yep. And we start the washing process. Yeah, and while it's washing, I will tell you some more words regarding post-exposure. Why is that important? I know I met on various trips a couple of stamp makers that said, no, post-exposing, I don't have the time for doing that. I don't do it, or they do it just a very short exposure time. I don't recommend doing so. Why? The better you post-expose, the more dry text plate is, and the harder it is, and the better the long-term quality of your text plate is. And by the way, the harder a text plate, the better fine details come on the paper when you make an imprint. And if you want to save time with post-exposure, because yeah, time is money, and the most expensive part of a polymer machine are the lamps. Basically, producing with polymer is very cheap. The only thing is when the lamps are over, and I recommend always exchange one floor of the lamps at the same time. So if one lamp stops working, don't exchange just one lamp, do all four on one floor, and the same for the other floor. But with post-exposure salt you can reduce post-exposure time and increase the lifetime of your lamps in the polymer machine. So this I can really recommend. And yeah, if you ask yourself about how long can I use that post-exposure water with the salt, which costs me money, quite long, is my reply. At least for about 2 to 3 weeks before replacing the water. And with one box or bin of that post-exposure salt you can do more than a year. And it's much better than a spray or powder you put on the text plate, because that just is reducing the imprint quality, because it's again a layer of powder or spray on your well done polymer plate. Yeah, regarding post-exposure, when you do it with the green image pack, then you can also, for increasing stability, post-expose for another 200 seconds the reverse side. But this is not a must, it's just a recommendation. More important is to expose the relief. And now we open the washout unit, where we have washed our second plate, the transparent one, with the backing sheet. Yeah, and what we can do with that already, and that's the main difference to the green image pack, we need not remove the second foil. Why? It's the backing sheet. That stays. This will not fall off, but important, don't forget to remove the second foil from the green one, because if you don't, you risk your future image pack text plates fall off from the text plate holder. So for the transparent one, image pack extra, not the backing sheet cannot be removed, and you post expose it, and you expose just the front side. Yeah, and here we are already more or less at the end of our production process. What I will do now is I will take out the green one. It is more or less exposed. I will dry it with a tissue. And what I'm going to do, I cut out the first text plate, just to show you really from the beginning to the end how producing a text plate is done. careful, of course, not cutting into a text. Then we would have to do the text plate once again. Yeah, that's it. That's the ready text plate with image pack, and of course the same is with image pack extra. The only difference is image pack extra has the backing sheet, so cutting out is a little bit more difficult, but what we can see here, a text plate with a date. If you have a date, then the extra stability of the backing sheet can be useful. If you say, no, I prefer cutting out should be easy and I want to save money, so I don't want to go for the backing sheet, the green one is fine, but please see to it that the floor, so the bottom, the floor, the base of text plate is at least 50% of the total height of 2.3 millimeters. So 50% is the floor and 50% is the relief. Yeah, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, good luck for producing text plates with the color polymer machine and